All right, it's time. We're going to begin. Welcome to the Media Over QUIC virtual interim. As always, this session is being recorded. This is the IETF note well. I think that everyone online has seen it before, but it does cover the intellectual property implications of you being here, as well as outlining a code of conduct. If you're not familiar with it, please search for any of those terms that you see on your screen and familiarize yourself with them. We're using Beat Echo today, as we have for quite some time now. You can use the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen to join the mic queue to speak. It's also used for shows of hands. Please turn off your audio video if you're not presenting. Unmuting does have a lag, so if you're going to talk, please give yourself about a second, press the button, and then give yourself a second to start talking. And because the noise cancellation and muting properties here are not great, if you are online, which you are. We need a scribe for today.
I can help.
Thank you, Yekwi. Here's today's agenda. Alan was kind enough to send out issue list last week, actually, on things we're going to discuss. Would anyone like to bash this agenda? Alan.
I'm bashing my own agenda. I wanted to maybe spend a few minutes talking about soliciting talks for Montreal.
Okay, do you want to just do that?
Do you want to do it now, or do you have more slides?
No, just do it now.
Okay, I will turn on the camera. So I think we could benefit from some people doing I would like to see like a proposal or analysis of the space for server side or for ad insertion and for client and server side ABR. Like I guess we touched on ABR, I think a little bit in Madrid, but I don't think we made very much progress there. And to me, those are like some of the biggest unexplored requirements, I guess I would call them, in the spec. And so I think it's a very good use of our time there. I am not an expert in either spot, so I cannot do it. But I think that if nobody is going to volunteer, maybe we need to nominate someone. So I don't know if anybody has any thoughts about who could help us make some progress on those topics.
Okay, thanks, Alan. I don't know anyone's going to jump up right now, but feel free to if you want to. Gwendol, go ahead.
Well, for ABR, we had a lot of document, right? And IBM did some with Zafar, did some studies as well. I mean, the conclusion of it was like most of the time, if we use the unsubscribe, subscribe, it works. Especially if we have like a smaller TT and real time where each subscriber is very close to the live at the relay, and you have a lot of corner cases for which it will not be good on priority.
Gwendol, has this been presented to the group before?
Yeah, it has. We discussed it, but it was like 1 year ago, and it was like fragmented somehow.
Right.
And I think Toby as well, MOQ presented this, and so it all came to, well, we will need to have a kind of a switch if we want to do it properly, and then it was at the beginning something that was challenged, and this is just the status as far as I know. I can try to repack all of this into a consistent presentation if you want. but it will be something we already discussed somehow. But if now people are more willing to address this, then let's go.
All right, please send an agenda request. Colin.
I totally agree with Alan. It'd be great to have topics on these, and I'm not an expert, but so from Gwendol, from your presentation from before, what I mostly remember is it showing like how well you can do without server-side ABR. It was ABR without server-side ABR, and I remember Ian, who just joined and is probably just catching up on this conversation as we're speaking, being like, expressing that he thought there was probably some needs where we needed to do better on that and have server-side ABR. Anyway, I think it would be, good. We have two decisions. One is, do we do server-side ABR? And then the other one is like, how do we do server-side ABR? And I think the first decision of whether we do it would be much easier to discuss if we had a concrete proposal on how to do it. So I'll shut up there.
I was going to say that
Go ahead.
I think we should not prevent server-side ABR. I don't know how much time we want to invest in MOQT to like make it optimal. I mean, we definitely don't want to do things that like make it impossible. And so I guess part of it, this is like an investment level of investment, in my opinion, right? Like one can imagine in Warp or something, we add an extension param that servers understand that basically says like, give me one of these 5 tracks. I only need one of them. Give me the one that's the best, right? Like that should be programmable, should be extensible. We talked about something of that shape before. Maybe it would be helpful to actually have a proposal of a extension written down, or have something in Warp as a potential proposal, just so we can ensure that our extension mechanism actually would support such a thing. Would that be helpful?
So Ian, in your opinion, does the current spec prevent, the mock transport spec prevent what you're describing? Server-side ABR?
No, I don't think so. But I don't think it does it out of the box, right? Because the server, you only have like priorities, right? There's no way to tell the server, give me one of these 3 things or something. You kind of have to, but you can sort of approximate it between like temporal scalability and prioritization and so on and so forth on the client side, right? So you can, you can get to, I think, relatively robust client-side ABR, but you can't just say like, give me one of these 3 things, which is, I think, the thing an extension might add or something.
Okay. But. So as chair, like, Alan asked for any sort of presentation. I kind of would like to see a concrete proposal at this point, rather than just kind of just studies. If we don't, it's getting a little late for these sort of undefined requirements. Then if we can. If it's something, if there's not going to be a proposal forthcoming soon, I feel like if this can be done as an extension, it should be done as an extension. Alan.
Yeah, I mean, my main interest is I haven't looked recently. There's an ABR tag on issues. I think there's like 4 or 5 different issues that people have raised. I think one of them is around atomic switching, which we still have an issue for, even though we've not done anything about it in the past. There's one about padding. There's one about, well, are we going to do anything about server-side ABR? So like, as the editor of mock transport, like I want to drive these issues to resolution. I don't have the information I need to do so, or the signal from the working group of how they should be resolved. So like that, I'm just asking for help getting there. And would also maybe not want to have too much discussion here on the actual merits of how to do it. I just want to like, it seems like people are interested in talking about it. So can we just get someone designated to run something in Montreal?
Gwendol?
For server-side ABR, we need to remember that the relay doesn't have any clue on what it is transporting. So this is something which is very limiting for server-side ABR, because you need to be informed of which track is the actual lower bitrate or higher bitrate of the current track. The same.
Victor?
Yeah, I feel like we will not actually get an answer until we figure out the subscription filters and multi-subscribe, because those are related.
Yep. I'm going to close the queue soon, Suhas. Suhas, we can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm doing +1 to Victor. That's exactly what I wanted to say. And I remember having some discussions about how if we have filter across multiple tracks, can we make it adaptable to do server-side ABR? I would like to see the design team come up with a proposal and see how if it fits directly or if it's an easy thing to add on top of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Suhas. Okay, that actually segues very nicely into a few announcements that Magnus and I would like to make. First of all, there is a design team that has started but not yet met based on Mo's object filter presentation in Toronto. So if you think you missed the boat on that and would like to get on it, it's probably not too late. Just email Mo, who's not here today. There's a number of outstanding consensus calls. The draft 14 consensus call is going to close very soon, so please look at that diff. It closes on the 9th. There is I've put out a announcement of our next hybrid interim in February in the Denver area. Do not buy tickets yet, but you have 2 weeks to comment on, a little less than so until the 20th, to comment on that venue and time. A venue meaning like metro area location. We don't have a specific building yet. And I think there's one more, but I'm losing it. Magnus, is there another one I'm forgetting?
Adoption call for Privacy Pass.
Yes, thank you. Okay. With that, I'm going to stop talking and hand it over to our editor so he can go through.
Do you want to share the slides, or do I do it? Hold on. How do I do it? Why is it all? The buttons are just. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I wrote these slides a week ago. I don't remember what I wrote. So here we go. Next slide. Oh, I got control. Woo. Okay, there's two different issues. They're incompatible with each other and different from the status quo. So the status quo for control message framing is that every control message has a header. There's a variable length type. There's a 16-bit length. So there's a proposal in 915 that says that we should have the length come first, and it should include the length of the type field as well. And it makes a very simple parse loop. You'll know, you read that 16 bits, and then you'll know exactly how many bytes you need in order to do everything. So that's sort of the advantage of that mechanism. There's a different proposal in 1212, which says we should keep type first, but we should only have a length field in control messages that are sufficiently complex. If people remember, we added the length field because for very complex messages, you had to sort of trial parse them, see how far you got, and then realize like, oh, I didn't have enough bytes. And you either had to create a bunch of state in order to do that, or you had to reparse them over and over again, which is kind of a DOS vector. So I don't know, does anybody want to speak for status quo for 915 or for 1212? Colin?
I mean, I guess I'll say is like, I do not think that swapping this will change the success of deployment of this protocol on the internet in any way whatsoever. So I don't think it's really a high priority thing to be spending agenda time on. But ignoring that, I think I lean slightly towards these are control messages. We're not really concerned about the bandwidth usage. Just we should keep the length. If we're going to have the length there some of the time, I mean, I don't know, put it there all the time. Just because this is parsed at a very different point in time when you know all that. If you want to go the other way where you use the type to look up the length or whether there's a length field, I don't really care. Either of these would work, but that's the point. Any of this would work. Like we just keep changing this stuff. So I don't care as long as we don't keep changing.
As an individual, yeah, I agree with Colin. Like, I'm fine with
there's
this.
A queue. There's a queue.
Oh,
Yaqui, you're next.
Is there a queue? Crap.
There's a queue.
Yes. Yaqui, you're up.
Yeah. So comment on 1212, which I brought. So I think first of all, 915 and 1212, they are not like conflicting with each other. But in any case, I heard that noticed already Cullen and Ian don't like swapping, and I personally don't feel that swapping is helping a lot either. On 12-12, I don't have not a really strong opinion, but I think the reason I studied the old reason that as Alan mentioned, right, was having this length for everywhere is really the reason is for complicated message. So the reason for simple message actually wasn't there. And so for simple message, just added length is sort of wasting. But on the other hand, people are saying, okay, maybe having a unique format is good. So it's sort of trade-off between different opinions.
So I think I'm next in the queue. I'll press on keeping what we have today. TLB works fine. Couple of messages one byte might be more, but we are wasting 2 bytes for control message. That doesn't seem too bad to me.
Okay. No, I'm actually going to give. Yeah, I was slow with 2 hours in college. I think it's fine today. Look, I mean, there's part of me that loves like the quick approach of 12-12, but like, I don't love it enough to bother to change the text that is in the draft today. So I mean, if we find a problem with the current status quo, then like, I think we should really express that, but it seems like we don't care about byte efficiency. So why bother changing it?
All right, I'm kind of jumping on the stack of everyone. I also agree, just keep it as is. I think I like having both of them. I don't think changing the order really makes a big difference either way. And just having the single loop of just read type, read length, and go off into the big parse loop is simple.
I still think we should swap them. It doesn't really matter if you already wrote a parser, but if you're writing a new parser, it makes your life easier.
Okay, I think I've mostly heard let's just keep the status quo and close both these issues. Is anybody going to lie on the road on that? Okay, that's what we'll do. Thanks. I think 944 got closed, so I don't know that we need to cover this slide. Suas, am I correct?
I think so. If not, I can close this one.
Okay, yeah.
Discuss this to the death. So yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. I mean,
it's already closed.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I wrote the slides and then the issue got closed. So, okay, this will probably take a little bit longer. Clarify whether message parameters are hop by hop or end to end. So, I think people will agree, but we can debate it, I guess, that if a subscriber sends a parameter, that is hop by hop, because that subscribe may not go past the first relay. So there shouldn't be anything in a subscribe that is got to be end to end, go all the way to the original publisher. That includes auth, and we sort of created special rules for new group request, which merged this morning, by the way. It's not, which is, I don't like to think about that as end to end. It's hop by hop with special relay thinking about what to do at each hop, but it's not like an end to end thing. So people jumped in the queue there. So let's pause there. Do people agree that subscriber parameters are hop by hop? Victor, I think you are stale in the queue.
Oh, okay. Okay. So sorry, I was waiting for Victor. So I mean, the way you're describing it, yes, sort of, but lots of these parameters have to be copied and passed on to the upstream in some cases, right? And we have text in the draft about which ones, what
almost
things.
All of them say to stop.
Stop. Well, say should stop at first hop, with a caveat you wouldn't do that for some types of edge relays, right? Like, I just think that, I agree with the principle. I agree with how you're thinking about it. I'm not arguing with that. I'm just saying that I don't think that that means, I think that some people would literally take some of the stuff we pass as being hop by hop because or being not end to end necessarily, but not being hop by hop because it is propagated up in some cases. So I just want to be really nuanced about how we phrase this. And I'm not sure that that matters much, right? It's not that you must not send any of these parameters to the next hop. It's definitely not the case, right?
Yeah, I don't think I was anticipating.
I don't think you were saying that. I just want to be, when you ask people to agree it's not hop by hop, I don't agree with those words. I do agree that the relay needs to know what it's doing in deciding which ones go and which ones don't, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
I think we're in agreement.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement, but I don't think that's the same as I wouldn't want to say in the draft the subscribe parameters are always hop by hop, because I think that'll be taken literally in a way that contradicts other text we have in the draft.
Okay. It turns out I wrote a PR as a straw man for this, which you can go read, and feel free to suggest if you think the text there is not right. I don't know that I think it's right. I just put something up there so we can have actual text to talk about. Victor.
Yeah, so I think they're hop by hop, and by hop, so Colin points out that there are relays which would forward parameters from subscribe, but my observation is that if you have many-to-one aggregation, you cannot forward subscribe parameters because they can contradict each other. And the way we deal with that contradiction is we basically say you don't forward those parameters. And if they're one-to-one, you can just proxy the QUIC connection instead of proxying MOQ on MOQ level. So I am not entirely sure the situations where you would actually want to forward exist because of this inherent contradiction.
Go ahead, Suhas.
Okay, sorry. Again, I think the text today says which clearly identifies per parameter in some sense. For example, if forward is even though set with 0, then in upstream you have to say forward equal to 1, and that kind of things kind of explains that we are giving. For set of parameters, we are asking relay to do certain behavior that would influence how the subscriptions work or the data flow would work. I think keeping it at that level, and if there are any parameter which does not have any semantic meaning behind a single hop, then we can explicitly say that in the draft. And the rest of the things is relay would do what they need to do to get to the Victor's point. If there's a contradiction, it has to pick one and do. It's the same thing with the priorities. If 10 priorities come, you cannot put a single priority, right? So it picks whatever the default priority upstream as well. So so I think instead of saying like what is hop by hop or not, we should basically say if a given parameter makes sense to be preserved beyond hop or not. That might be one way to think about how do you want to classify this. Then having a clear distinction between hop by hop versus end to end.
Okay, I'm going to try to create a straw definition here, which is that an end-to-end parameter is one that must be forwarded to the next hop. And so, and anything that's not end-to-end by that definition is hop by hop, meaning it has to go over a point-to-point link, and the receiver decides what it does based on something, based on text we have, based on like its own policy, whatever we want to say. But if it's end-to-end, there's no choice. It has to be forwarded. So I think by that definition, what I have for to say subscribers is correct. There's nothing that the subscriber sends that must be forwarded through unilaterally. It's either only intended for the first hop relay, or the relay is making a decision based on some other factors about whether to include it or not. So let me just try to let's pause there and then go back through. So Victor, Yequi, Suhas, and Cullen. Victor's out. So Yequi?
Yeah. So I sort of agree with what
Cullen, you got
it. Yeah, I agree with people said that call it like end to end might be sort of little conflicting with the concept that we're saying, okay, all the sessions are defined by two points. But again, on the other hand, I just heard Alan said, okay, the definition of hop power means that it just means your relay has to pass for the parameters. Therefore, then there is no real conflict. It seems that we are all on the same page. Just need to clearly specify which parameters for which message need to be passed and so on.
Okay, Suhas?
More of a clarification question to you, Alan. Like, I think by the end-to-end, you mean something that should not be changed per hop. It has to be preserved. The value has to be preserved from the end subscriber to the original publisher. Yeah, if we have a parameter like that, yes, that will fall into that category. But anything else, I would not even define it as an hop by hop. It's more like a parameter definition defines what needs to be done with it.
Yes, and it seems like very probably nobody has read the RFCPR, but I don't define hop by hop there. I only defined end to end, and end to end means what I just said. Is like it's got to go.
I read it. Yeah, I read it.
Okay, yay! Someone read it. So anyway, this language exists. It comes, HTTP uses it all over the place. I'm not saying we should import their definitions. I'm hearing a lot of people say that it's confusing and we shouldn't use it, and I'm totally fine with that. So I think we can maybe focus more on the meaning of end. It's either end to end or it's not end to end. Maybe that's easier.
Alan, all I was going to say is I agree with your definition of end to end, but I disagree with your point that if it's not end to end, it's hop by hop. That's where we're getting into trouble, right? I mean, there are things like I think if we had a definition of hop by hop, we would realize there was messages that fell in neither of these two categories, right?
Okay,
so if you want to just use end to end and not end to end, I'm on the same page with you. So
okay,
yeah.
let's use that.
I read your PR, but it wasn't on the agenda.
It's okay. No, let's use that definition. So it's either end to end or it's not end to end. Okay, I think I haven't heard anybody come up to say they can think of something that the subscriber is sending that is end to end to the publisher, which is good. It means we agree on that. Now I want to talk about what the publisher sends, because I think some of the things the publisher sends probably are end to end in the sense, and some probably aren't. So this was my thought is that delivery timeout and delivery timeout when it's sent by the publisher priority, and group order when it's sent by the publisher, those seem end to end. Wherever the track goes, those should go with it. Dynamic groups, which just landed, is defined, according to this definition and how it's written there, it behaves this way. It's got to go wherever the track goes. The draft PR I wrote through max cache duration in that same bucket, but I'm less convicted in, I could be open, if someone wanted to tell me that there was a reason why someone might want to change max cache duration, I am willing to believe that. Largest object, auth, and expires all seem like they are not end to end to me. Colin?
Okay, so let me start with things like expires and max cache duration. The application, the publisher has to know what's going to do with that. It can't have the relays magically changing those on it to something else. That would be very confusing. So I think those need to be considered end to end. I think auth also is something, because you don't know what relays this might go to eventually. There's no reasonable way for a relay to safely remove or change auth parameters. It might be able to add an auth parameter. I can see it doing that, but I think it probably shouldn't remove them. And this gets into the nuances on all of these things. I think we should just talk about what relays can do and what relays cannot do, and not get round up about the word end to end or not. But this does raise the point of we need to talk about whether they can change max cache duration or whatever, right? And I don't think they should, right? But we can take each one of those individually and sort of nail it down.
Okay, let's take them.
Let's start with auth. Right?
I'm sorry?
Let's start with auth then.
Okay. My only question about auth, do you really want it, let's say the original publisher is authenticating to, let's take a live video distribution system. The original publisher is going to an ingest relay, and it needs to authenticate that it can publish that.
Please mute Colin.
Go to all million subscribers. And I don't think in current systems they do, and it may be bad if they do, which is why I think there are cases where it would get removed, but I'm sure you can come up with a case where it has to be there. So I don't know, maybe there's not.
I think we could go even stronger. I think you could probably come up to a case where it almost has to be removed. And I apologize for failing to mute on all of this. Perhaps we could move to a conferencing system that had echo cancellation.
Okay. Is there more you want to like? Colin, do you want to talk more about?
I mean, auth seems to nail it to the ground right there. You just more or less defined a good argument of why we can't define this very well for auth. It might be both ways. So what can I give you as a signal to an editor that helps you add a PR on this?
To me, I think if it's not universally must forward through the system, it's not end to end. You're muted.
Doesn't matter. The problem is we have to say for each one of these things what it does and how relays handle it in various directions. And maybe it comes out of that end to end or not. But I'm not sure that end to end is going to be an incredibly useful term for you here. Because I think with every one of these, they're going to be a little nuanced. But look, I mean, auth, I sort of agree with you, but expires, max cache duration, like, no, I think those need to be in.
Okay, well, I do want to get to the queue, but I'm curious about your thoughts about expires. And the reason why it seemed like it might go why different hops might have different expirations is that is more of a relay policy than a publisher policy.
I don't think I view that way. I think expires, I view it, and so maybe this when you get semantics of it. Expires is expressing to the relays the desire of the publisher. It doesn't mean relays will necessarily do that, but it's a desire of the publisher.
Okay, we spent a bunch of time talking about expires 2 weeks ago. The PR has captured that discussion and landed. So we now have a definition in the editor's copy of what expires means. I don't think it means what you just said. What we talked about was it's like how long until this subscription is going to be ended by the publisher, and not necessarily the original one. I'm going to go back. The queue's getting long, but we can come back, and I want to hear what other people have thoughts. So, Yekui.
Yeah, so I read the PR, and Alan has specified each and every parameter behavior there. So I think the most constructive way is go to the PR, read it, and if you, for a particular parameter, for a message, you are not satisfied, not happy, then you comment there. That way it's easier to resolve. Otherwise, I mean, all the messages, all parameters, it's not possible to conclude from here. The most constructive way is from there. I read it. I didn't find any problem because I'm not so familiar with a lot of content there. But the text-wise, editing-wise, good, the PR.
Okay, thanks. Victor?
Yeah, auth is complicated because there are endpoints that can enforce auth, but in most cases you don't really want to. I think of all questions on the slides, the only one is like, what do we do with unknown publisher parameters? That bothers me.
Wait, can you say more about what bothers you about it?
I mean, what is the difference between a known and an unknown parameter?
So there was a PR that I had that I think you guys talked about after I left in Toronto, which essentially it created a blob that the publisher could insert that contained end-to-end metadata pairs that had to be forwarded all the way through, that were essentially for the, so there would not be any unknown like that was one way to handle it, where there's one known parameter, which is blob, and then, or, you know, set of key value pairs. And so there's not, and within that, there can be unknown ones, which don't need to be parsed. So that was one way to spell that, but
So
it's
for object extensions, we currently define semantics that you have to forward them unless you understand them and can do something to them. Is there any reasons publisher parameters behave any different from that?
no, that's a great question. Okay, thank you for help clarifying that. Okay, I think Queen Victor, you might still be in the queue, and then I say Ian, and then Suas.
Sorry. I raised this issue partially because at some point, various ideas about, partially due to the wire encoding, but even more than the wire encoding, this idea of like, do you need to understand parameters came up? And I think it's, you know, if things are hop by hop, like it's really easy to say you need to understand every single parameter like in the message. And if things are a little more end to end, you can imagine a relay through which parameters in, say, a publish message flow down, and like some of them the relay may need to understand, like others maybe some relays need to understand, but not all. It's not really clear. I don't know. So part of the reason I opened this was just to get a better handle on that for myself, was the like, is it okay to have parameters that some relays and other people in the network do not understand? Like that I guess was a core of this question. So maybe that's because that informs a number of other things, right? Like, so we go back to like the parameter registry, for example. Like at some point there was like something where like, you know, do we want a range where it's like opaque or something? And, you know, previously I thought we kind of landed on the idea of like, you really need to understand all the parameters. And I guess, I don't know if we still think that or not. So, yeah.
Okay, I'm at least for the whatever 8 or 9 that we have defined here. I'm not suggesting that there's any relay that doesn't need to understand all of them.
Oh no, you clearly have to define those, understand those. Yes, I agree. Yeah.
You're so it's really that last question. Like, is there such a thing as a custom?
Yes, it's that last question. Yep, bingo. That's that. I mean, okay. I think that's probably the most.
I think we can tackle that somewhat separately.
Okay. Okay. Then
I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, right?
Yeah. But maybe let's not spend too much more time on this in the interest of maybe, as Colin says, it's more of an intellectual argument than an actual.
Okay.
So I think I'm next in the line. I think that the way to think about, probably I'm trying to lean with Cullen on this one, is to say for each parameter what is expected by a relay. One example is that like there can be certain relays which are not authorizing relays. They want to kind of hand over the authorization to the next relay in the network, which has more authorization context for the session, and hence it might want to hand off. In that case, the auth parameter has to be forwarded. It's not hop by hop. I think the probably the best way, maybe it's already in your PR, so I did not read it. Sorry for that, Alan. So that's probably the best way to tackle is that, as each parameter, probably we need to add what is expected at every relay, and have that per parameter would be much better definition than putting any of the labels on top of it.
Okay, I'm in MOQ. There's publishers, there's subscribers, and there's relays. And I guess we've sort of said there's like a relay and we've divided relay into relay and caching relay, because caching relays that cache have a sort of additional set of norms they have to apply to. You just introduced the term auth relay for the first time. So
no, I'm just trying to say is
that we're going to create like n different kinds of relays, and I would rather we just say like, in a lot of ways, the document, we know that in real deployments, relays are going to be actually a large distributed system but from the purpose of the specification are operating as a single relay. So I wonder if your distinction between an auth relay and a non-auth relay is a sort of detail of like two components of a distributed system that represent a relay with a capital R, and doesn't need to be spelled out so clearly.
I don't think we need to define a different kind of a relay. I think the caching relay is not a different kind of relay, but a relay that supports caching. That does not change the core protocol behavior, rather than a functionality that sits on top of the relay. Like authorization is also functionality that sits on top of the relay, which enables the protocol to happen or not happen based on the authorization. That doesn't mean that every relay has to support authorization. At the same time, it doesn't mean every relay has to support caching either. All I was trying to say is that if we can go back and slightly turn it around and say that for each parameter, probably we'll add one section that like a one paragraph that says in this parameter, what would happen if a relay does not understand? Would clarify most of these things, because in that case, auth would basically means that it has to send it. If the relay decides this auth has to be on every hop of that one, it has to send that auth parameter further downstream, even though that relay authorizes that, because an authorization scheme can have multiple disclosures in that one or claims in that one that only one relay can do it. In some cases, for a bigger part of it, a different claim can apply. So it's very hard to say a blob that is undefined by MOQ protocol and say hence it has to be a hop or end to end. So I'm just trying to reverse it and say let's not put a label, but instead say that this is for this parameter, this is the behavior we expect.
Okay, I get what you're saying, and we could add text, which is like, if you receive a publish with an auth token and you cannot verify the authenticity, I mean, we already say the relay has to authorize it in order to allow the publish. Like that language is there, and I don't think we want to remove it. So if that's true, like I can't also add language, which is like, if it's somehow unable to auth, but is able to delegate that to another relay somewhere else, like, I don't know if we want text about that or not, but I would go ahead and like, please leave your comment on the PR, or like, if you think there's like specific text that can be, I know what you're getting at. I totally believe there will be a system that supports MOQ-T and it receives a publish with an auth token and does not validate it and forwards it. And I think that's okay. And the spec should not tell you can't do that. Right. But I think it's more like the spec also can't say you must forward the auth. If you get an auth and publish, you have to forward it. I don't think it can say that either.
I agree.
And so we may be creating interoperability problems for ourselves.
No,
I'm not normative behavior one way or the other.
I completely agree with you. I'm just saying that the labeling is what is causing the confusion. But labeling in saying is that you should not forward. It has to be resolved at the hop-by-hop level, and it has no semantics beyond that. That's where the confusion is coming, I feel. Not about, I think none of us are disagreeing with the model here. I really have to authorize, if not, many things can go wrong. So we should not say you can or cannot, depending on what you feel like. Yeah, I agree with you.
Okay, I see. And Ian, are you back in the queue or is it stale? I'm going to assume it's stale. Okay. I think we're probably we don't need to resolve this right now. I would encourage everyone to go read the associated PR and please provide any feedback. It was intended as a straw man to get us going here. And any and all feedback is welcome, and we'll take that feedback and maybe revisit this in 2 weeks or revisit it in Montreal when people, unless people love the PR and it lands, because people stamp it. Does anybody else want to say anything on a plan to move forward here? I don't think we can make any more firm decisions. Okay. I mean, that last question on there about custom and unknown published parameters, I do think we need to spend some more time on, but let's figure out the known parameters first. Oh boy. Okay, new topic. Ephemeral and long-lived request IDs. So our reminder of our history lesson, there originally was no such thing as any kind of, there were no identifiers at all. There was only track alias. We then added subscribe ID, which only applied to subscribe messages. And so could be used by the publisher to limit the number of concurrent subscriptions that could happen, which seemed potentially useful. We then made that request ID, and it was used for both subscribe and fetch. So the publisher could use request ID to limit subscribe and fetch, the number of subscribes and fetches that were concurrently ongoing. And then it has now expanded to request ID is now included in, it says all requests. There's subtlety there because, for example, you don't need a request ID and unsubscribe, or you might be in bad shape. So requests that don't need state, they don't create state, but they only tear it down, don't tend to need these requests. So that's where we are right now. There's a request ID. You need a request ID to send a track status. You need a request ID to send a published namespace. You need request IDs. This is good because we are now protected against rapid reset attacks and other kinds of control message based DOS attacks, which are very popular. I think many people's PhD students are off right now reading protocol specifications like ours and making their hay trying to figure out new and interesting ways to DOS things based on poor control message design. So I think we have done a good thing in having request ID here. The bad thing is that publishers now have less control over the number of subscriptions or fetches or subscribes namespaces that can happen per session. So if my goal is to limit the number of subscriptions, I might say, okay, well, I'm going to give 100 request IDs. Once there's 100 subscriptions, now the peer can't send a track status anymore. It can't. We also added request ID to subscribe update, so you can't even update the subscriptions it has. So that seems like not great. So I don't know. I think that the choices are we can split the space, which adds a bunch more complexity and might give more control, or we can just live with it. I'm curious. Wait, Magnus, I don't know. Is everyone else looking at slide 1168? I am.
Yes, I'm seeing
Yes,
1168.
Okay, Magnus, you're stuck. Okay. Okay, great. All right, go ahead. Queue up and tell me what to do with this issue.
I mean, this kind of makes sense, but my question is like, this looks like this long-lived request ID. It sounds like track alias.
That's not true for fetch, although maybe it doesn't matter for fetch.
Okay, that's true.
And it's not, and there's also state associated with a namespace subscription, although maybe not a ton of state, some state. To us?
More of a clarification question. So the main concern here is that the publisher would not have the control on number of request IDs because the server or the other side might reset saying that the max request ID reached. That's the main thing, right? So you lose control over it. And taking it one step further, if that has happened, that also means that the other side thinks that you're using more resources than you're supposed to use. Isn't that the expected behavior for us to happen? Hence, it said you overused your request IDs. Because as long as the other side is concerned, it's either subscribe or publish. It's the amount of state it's managing to make this happen. And if it thinks you're overusing it, it has to tell you stop doing that, right? I thought that was the good thing to have.
So I think request ID is a good thing to have because I have had like this was screwed up. HTTP2 screwed this up and it created a huge nightmare for people when the attackers figured it out. So I think it's good that we have this here, but we've lost something that we at various times had in MOQ, which was the ability to limit if what I really care about is the number of active subscriptions, because a subscription is more heavyweight than, say, the number of subscribe updates you can send me or the number of track statuses you can send me. These things are not equivalent. And we no longer have a way to say, like, we'll only support this many concurrent subscriptions right now. I mean, even setting aside fetch or anything else, or namespace subscriptions, like just track subscriptions, like there's no way to limit them specifically. And if you use up all the request IDs I give you for subscriptions, and I think, oh, well, I'll give you a few more just in case you want to subscribe update, then you can just establish more subscriptions. Ian?
I'm going to point out there's also like a few other related problems here, which include the fact that you have to currently process all control messages to get to like something that might actually allow you to like remove state. So like the worst one is unsubscribe. If I have a queue of 100 control messages and I'm like, oh, I really want to unsubscribe right now, that is stuck behind like the other 100 control messages. It's pretty sad. Don't love it. Just saying. You know, as an individual, I propose moving to stream per subscription, etc. And I made slides on that, but they're not quite. I mean, I can present them, but they're not quite as polished as I would like. But it certainly like mitigates a lot of these problems because then you don't need request ID anymore.
Are you saying that every request goes on its own stream?
Yeah, and like subscribe, update, and such, like just travel on the same stream as the subscription. So.
Okay. I mean, I guess I'm at least somewhat interested in seeing. Maybe I would like to see a list discussion before we allocate time, since it's a kind of a fairly big design change right now. But like,
yeah, I hope to have slides for today, but I did not. So, but I can send out slides after or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Colin.
So like, I think this really fits into sort of, you know, what's our whole DDoS prevention story. And I think that it is somewhat different than HTTP. It probably needs to be because of the multicast behavior of this. And I feel like that what we should do is step back, maybe a design team or whatever, but step back and think of what are the things that we need to have as protected resources, like subscribes, you clearly identify, and sort of figure out what are the different categories of things that we protect or have a budget for. Do we have different budgets for them, or is it one budget that covers everything? And then once we understand what our requirements are on that, I think it'll be really easy to sort of update a design that does this. And we may end up with some new IDs that like get billed to different budgets. You know, there may be right. And I mean, you know, lots of people have wished there's at various times too, there was ways to be able to say things like a limit on bandwidth that you were going to get. So we might have to think about that a little bit as well. So I just think that we should step back and think about the big picture of how people will DDoS these relays and what we want to do to protect from that DDoS. And then this whole conversation will be easy.
Okay, thank you, Martin.
Yeah, as an individual, I like to make 3 points. The first one is that, you know, if you really want to have something that's just flawless to expressing any sort of requirement, you end up with this very complex matrix of, you know, different request types and like bytes and streams and so on. And that's going to get super complicated, and you're going to end up with HTTP priorities, HTTP2 priorities rather. And like that would also be very painful to implement and painful to write down, and no one's going to use it. The second point I would like to make is that we actually have a lot more tools in Request ID to do various kinds of flow control. Obviously, there's like quick level stream and byte flow controls and stream byte flow controls. There's also just refusing to subscribe. Like you could just send subscribe error, try again later, right? Or like close some subscribes first, or whatever you want to do. I would prefer, I mean, maybe this is the opposite of what Colin's saying about a holistic view, but maybe we could just use some point solutions here to solve specific problems that we have. And then finally, like if we have this complicated matrix of doing things, we separate all the different kind of request IDs. Like the one point of the max request ID is to avoid rapid reset attacks and that kind of thing. And if we have this complicated thing with like multiple types of request IDs, we're just going to mess it up and end up leaving ourselves vulnerable to these kinds of attacks. So I would suggest we just leave it as is. And if we have specific problems that we want to construct, you know, they're like very lightweight point solutions to solve specific problems we're trying to solve, like just having an error code, like close some subscribes and try again, or something like that. Thanks.
Okay, no.
I'm very intrigued about Ian's proposal. I long wanted something like that, and I hope it's not too late to do something like that. The obvious solution to request IDs is to eliminate them. You don't need them. We already have, you know, correlators at the quick level. So if we could piggyback off of that, I'm 100% for that kind of a solution. I realize it's maybe late and disruptive to do something like that, but I have forever thought that that's how fetch and subscribe should have always worked. Never understood why we wanted this single control channel with all the messages piped directly on it, and never use anything that the QUIC layer provides us. I think we should go the opposite direction. Use every aspect of QUIC that we can to make our protocol simpler. So looking forward to Ian's proposal and willing to help.
Okay.
Thank you.
I heard a few different things. I actually am very, I think Cullen's point to take a holistic view is probably a good thing. Like, at the very least, understanding what are the vectors we are really concerned about and we think that we need mechanisms. I am like, I heard that Ian has a proposal to make a change that like may address part of the problem, but I wonder if we should put more energy into making sure we understand the whole problem before we do a bunch of work making solutions. I guess I'm wondering who would like to sort of drive that wider view of DOS or DDoS attacks forward. Yehui.
Yeah. Clarification question to understand the one stream, one request thing. So does that mean, for example, you would have to, if we use subgroups, and each subgroup is in its own stream, then for one track, you would have to use multiple requests, one for each subgroup.
So I would like to just do. I would like to chair interrupt here. Like Ian brought up the bidirectional stream thing. I think we should table that. Like, we need to have a presentation and talk about that with having someone put some thought into the design rather than sitting here and trying to design it in the meeting. To talk about this PR, let's just assume that's not going to happen, and we're going to have one control stream. And do we want to have some additional type of flow control on? We want to complicate flow control for requests, basically, by having different ID types or something.
Yeah, and to be clear, like, I talked with Martin about my slides, and I think we agreed that they needed another round before being presented. So there's kind of a reason we didn't talk about it in detail. But I thought, given we're talking about this topic, it would be odd not to at least mention that that's an area of interest. So.
Yeah, I didn't mean to slap you down, Ian. I just feel like we're drifting off and discussing something trying to engineer something in real time, which is not going to be successful. Mike in the thread says that he is happy to help with the requirements gathering for this issue. I don't know if help means like herd the cats to actually produce something or not. I'm sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to drop in there before we ended up.
No, I think that's helpful. I'm not going to this is like, I'm going to put a statement out to everybody, which is like, if there's something that's been in the back of your head for a long time, wishing that it would change with MOQ-T, and there is not an open issue, in my universe, that does not exist. So even though it's awfully late, please go make sure there's an issue and write down if somebody's been dreaming for years, there will be bidirectional streams. There is no issue representing anything like that anywhere. So please file your requirements. Suhas?
I think I like long time ago, I did bring this proposal for having bidirectional stream and one control stream per track, and then we went to single control stream. I don't think so. The current design is bad in any ways. And I think I had PR also back then, and we as a group we agreed, and I think the current proposal is not bad. And there's, like as Martin was pointing out, there's some can we see what can we make work, or how can we fix this one. And I think I'm happy to help if in also in the high level things of, regardless of what we do with this, we need to have a proposal on how do you handle the DOS. That's there, and I think we should have a separate design team that works on that one, and that might suggest what we do here or not. I don't know, but I think we should do it regardless of this.
Mike?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify what I was saying in the chat. I'd be happy to herd cats around this issue because it feels like what we have right now is okay, but if we're going to make a change, we should maybe know why, like, and like get to the bottom of like what the requirements are there and which things we want to tackle in MOQ versus like elsewhere, like what the scope is, rather than like going and making a change, like switching like Ian's proposal or something else, and then realizing after the fact that like there's another set of related problems that it actually makes worse. Or, you know, I think we should like sit with, okay, what are the resources we want to protect? You know, what is this solving for? Because right now it seems kind of in between. It helps with some things, but it's not perfect. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to send out an email asking for design team members that want to think about the threat model for DOS, and like I'm going to refer to you as the leader of that, and people can send email. So if you're interested in this, go check the list, guys. All right, let's move on.
Okay, thanks everybody. I'm excited to hear what the design team comes up with. Okay, this issue, all the text in the issue is copied into this slide. Do people think that mock transport should be defining conventions for what is going in track namespace tuples? I'm not sure if it's a mock transport concern. Mike, you may still be stale in the queue. Otherwise, it's Cullen.
So we've seen variants of, I mean, people are doing variants of something along these lines. Like, for example, using the name that came in the connection URI as something you can connect to. And the point isn't the relays that are the CDN relays. The problem is the relays that are a very local relay, like might be running in your local access point or something. Now, I don't think this is necessarily the solution, but I think that it's worth us talking a little bit about how that might work. And it probably happens at the MOQ layer, having some default for this, how this happens. You know, imagine that you have a relay in your home access point, which is not configured in any way with any policy or anything. It also doesn't bill, it doesn't have authorization, but it does aggregate and forward things and temporary cache things. That type of use case makes a big media quality experience difference, particularly when you have problems on Wi-Fi. We can show you videos of this, right? There's real data to back this. But it does beg the question of how it does it. So, like, you know, using HTTP model, like you grab something out of the message when something hits a proxy, and if you don't know any other information about where to send it, you grab the origin domain name and you send it towards the origin, right? So these relays might be configured with an upstream relay that they talk to, or they might be configured, which is a policy of form, or they might just be sitting there alone trying to do something and have some idea where they might want to forward this. Also, when we just sort of see people playing with implementations, like you come up with the same question. So I think that that's backing up from this solution to what's the problem they're trying to hit. That's the thing we've talked about. And this has been a long open issue that I've said, well, hey, at some point in time, we need to talk about discovery and how that works. And this is part of like that discovery process, right? And we've talked about it a little bit in the past, but we've never resolved any of it.
Magnus?
Yes, as the individual. On Cullen's point here, I think you're actually going into somewhere which I don't know if you have anything describing this type of that type of relay, and how it, I think, from like a CDN perspective, etc., is something very much looking like it's the actual end user. It's just representing the end user. So I guess what you want is actually instead, you want to say a connect through method for this relay. You want to have the in clientele, the upstream relay, please connect further to this relay and serve me. But yeah, this is Strawman. I think this comes into the several different models that may of type of relays where we primarily have had and talking on the kind of user CDN rather than I'm representing the endpoint model.
Look, I think there's some fairness to everything you're saying there, Magnus. I think that we just need to sort of dig down and pull this apart a little bit. And I don't think it generates new types of relays. I think it is be acting on the user, all those sorts of things. But I mean, this is the discovery item that we've had sort of floating around for a long time. This is part of it. The other part of it is how you discover there's one of those on your local network, which what's been discussed is MDNS. But like, I don't want to treat this like this is being raised for the first time now. It's not. That's all.
Okay, I think the at least the use case you're describing, Colin, to me does not sound like a relay with a capital R as the mock transport draft defines a relay, because the mock transport draft relay does not ever establish a connection, receives connections from clients, and they publish or publish namespace, and a relay knows how to match subscribers and publishers that way. The system you're describing sounds to me, I think this is like building on Magnus's point, it sounds like a proxy or some other kind of gateway or tunnel that is not, I mean, it may share some of the characteristics that a MOQ-T relay does, but it is not a relay in the same sense.
So I understand what you're saying and makes sense. So this does, I mean, this use case goes back to like, it was Ed Spencer's document. Like we've just, it's not like, it goes way back, right? But I'm not talking about what this relay needs to do with the upstream. I use the words upstream, that's probably a mistake. What I'm talking about is how the information, the relevant information gets conveyed from the local subscriber to that local relay, not what that relay does it from there on, right? And what I'm saying is there may need to be some conventions or some message where you can do that type of thing that we may want to add. And again, this is like, we need to put some bytes somewhere in a message. There's any number of ways to skin this cat. I'm not saying this is the right way to skin it.
Okay. I mean, so my job as MOQ-T editor is to drive the issues in mock transport to 0. And I want to know how to do this issue. This issue does not feel strong, at least as proposed, does not feel like a change in the transport at all. You want to cram bytes in a track namespace, you go right ahead. Track namespaces are bytes. If you want to put it somewhere else, I mean, and this may be a good negotiated extension where you say like, I will negotiate an additional parameter in subscribe, which is connect destination or something, or subscribe v2 that has that additional field in or whatever. Like there's other ways to do it, but I don't know that there's a change being asked for in the core transport that I can write.
Okay, so the issue is open. Right.
Yeah.
Ignore the. I'll remove the proposal of how one might solve it.
Magnus, did you want to say something?
No, I think with it, I think this try to maybe make it. Try to figure out what actually needs to happen in this relation, and if it's how it relates to the core aspects of the mock transport, or if it's an extension, or if it's something else. It's. I think that's where we need to discuss this. I think there's probably a few ways of skinning the cat, so to say, about how to solve it. But yeah. Okay.
Okay, I'll move on. I think for now, anyway, I'm going to tag that issue as not transport because I don't see what. But feel free to keep iterating on the issue asynchronously, and if there's a transport change required, we will make it. Okay. We talked about this in Madrid. We've been talking about this forever. There's currently 2 ways. Maybe we can come to a conclusion. There's 2 ways to encode no objects when you request a fetch. I can say fetch OK and give you an empty response stream, or I can give you a fetch error with no objects. As an implementer, I find it annoying that like I have this error case, which is not actually an error. It just means that there were no objects in that range. That can be part of a perfectly successful pattern. So I kind of want to get rid of the error. Forcing publishers to open and close an empty stream when they know there's no objects in the range that's requested, that seems wasteful. So I don't really love that either. And then Yequi read this issue and added this wonderful text, which is like having more than one way to do something is like always not good unless there's a benefit. And having multiple ways of doing things where one is an error and one is not is kind of sick. So we're there. And I will observe that when I was looking at like, how does this work in HTTP, just another idea, which is like an HTTP unsatisfiable range request is more like a fetch error. So yeah, let's just, either we keep both, either we get, so there's now 3 different proposals. And like the last time we talked about this, 3 different people came and gave at least 2 different opinions, and all 3 of those people were from the same company. Are we keeping both of these? Are we killing fetch error and no objects? Or are we killing fetch OK and empty stream? I'm not sure I care. I just want to be done. Okay, Victor, suggest new slide wording. No? Okay, Yekui.
Yeah, as you laid out in the previous slides, right? So I don't think keep both is an option. That makes us sick. And so then between the 2, I don't have a strong opinion, but as you also laid out, right? If I don't have something to satisfy your request, that was kept as a error in HTTP and also in some other messages in MOQT. So I think 3 is more consistent. Option 3 to remove that. But of course, number 2 can still be okay, but 3 seems the best. Okay, that's my comment.
Thanks. Mo?
I would agree with 3, except for I know how we got here. And it was because you didn't know, as a relay, to process a fetch, you didn't know whether you were going to error it or okay it. And so to go upstream, you don't have it right now, but to go upstream to get it, do you just hold off and just, not send anything, not send any kind of response while you go fetch the upstream? Or do you say, okay, and you wait until the upstream data comes or doesn't come, and then you decide, oh, well, nothing came and I end the stream. Whereas the fetch errors, I know right away, I can't fulfill this, and I can immediately make that decision. But if you can't make the decision immediately, you just leave the fetch hanging until you can. That's what that would require, because you can't send the fetch okay and then close it out with nothing on it. Otherwise, there may be a protocol error, right? If we remove 3, if we make 3 a protocol error.
I think there's already cases in fetch where you have to hold the fetch okay, because you don't know if you, for example, if the track is, if there's a request that goes beyond the end of your current cache, but you don't know, you don't have an active subscription right now, it's possible that there's a new end object and you don't know that till you go upstream. So like there are other fetch is already a disaster. I encourage someone to go either read an implementation or attempt to write one. There are already cases you have to defer. So I'm not sure that having to defer in this case is a huge argument against. But remind me, you said you like removing fetch okay empty?
I would prefer 3 if we can agree that indefinitely, not responding to the fetch is okay in most cases. I think fetch senders may time out, may have internal timeouts, not protocol level timeouts, but just internal timeouts. What the hell,
Okay. All right, Colin?
I feel strongly not number 1. And I feel weakly that number 3 is the best choice here.
Okay. Does anybody want to speak for 2?
True sounds like the most sensible option to me. I have no idea why we have the no object error code. Like, this just sounds like a really odd special case that does not really have any justification. It just adds logic, but does not remove any.
Sorry, Victor, I might be misunderstanding it. It sounds like you're arguing that what we should do is 3, not what we should do is 2. I'm just lost on which one you're.
I'm arguing what 2, but as I pointed out in chat, Alan might have the slide should have had the word keep in beginning of all 3 points.
I'm retyping it in the chat. Hold on. Like that?
Yeah, that sounds better.
It did reverse what 2 and what 3 meant. So if you previously said 3, you may not.
Okay, I'm now for 2.
Okay. And Victor, you're now for you're trying to say you're for 3.
No, I mean they mean the same thing, right? 2 in chat is 2 in.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're correct. I reversed the order. Okay. I misspoke. Charis, do you want to type out a show of hands here? Because I've completely screwed this up.
I think we have consensus that we don't want to do 1, so I think we only have 2 options, right?
Okay.
Right. I agree.
Okay.
How would people prefer keep or remove if we did a show of hands?
Keep or keep which one or remove which one? Sorry, I'm a bit confused.
Can you clarify if keep means the other will be a protocol error and close the connection? Keep doesn't necessarily mean that to me, but if that's what we intend, we should be explicit.
I imagine if we decide to keep fetch OK plus empty stream, we will just remove no objects error code.
That sounds right.
And in the reverse, if you keep fetch error with no objects, does that mean it's a protocol error to do a fetch OK and then a fin on that stream?
I think the answer has to be yes, Mo, but that doesn't sound like super nice. I can't say, like, now that you say that out loud, I don't love that.
That's why I think we should say it explicitly.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I'm working on a show of hands here. It's gonna be a remove yes no for one of the options of the 2 or 3, and so now it's live on. So the yes, you can answer. Do you want to remove fetch error plus no objects, or and no then will mean removing fetch OK plus empty stream.
Just to be clear, in this case, if you can, even if a relay does not have a clear idea, if it can satisfy the entire fetch, you can still send fetch OK, and eventually follow up with empty stream, and that's valid behavior. Just want to make sure.
Yeah, if someone sends you a fetch,
yeah,
for which there are no let's say a fetch for a range in a group that's past the end of the group, so there are no objects in that range. You would open an empty. You would open and close a fetch response stream. You'd say fetch OK, that's fine, and then you'd open and close the response stream. It'd be like there was nothing there.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, it seems to be, I assume everyone has now, it's 7 yes, 2 no's, and 1 no opinion. So seems fairly, I don't know if anyone wants to add anything else on if it's problematic for them to see that we remove, but I haven't heard anyone really arguing for keeping both, which would be an argument for that there's some issues with removing them. So I assume that we will go with remove fetch error plus no objects.
Okay, I think I have some signal. We will go write a PR. We may even already have this PR. I can't remember. That's great. That is all the slides I had, and we have 11 minutes. So I am probably just, does anybody have an issue they would really like to talk about right now? Or I can throw up the list. I think we're very low on ones that are actually marked needs discussion. There are about 17 that are untriaged. Ian?
I would like to close out the, like, was it fetch too big or whatever?
Oh, great one. If we can do that in 10 minutes, that'd be amazing.
Like, I just would like that to go away.
Okay.
Whatever way it needs to go away.
Let me, okay, close deck, request screen share. Let me try to pull up the issue you're talking about, if I can figure out how to do that. I'm forgetting the number, which is odd. I remember all the numbers all the time.
Pi 746.
Okay, 1109 is the PR. 746 is the issue. And did you are you screen what is screen sharing for me? Do I get to pick? I'm confused. I'm gonna stop and request it again because I didn't.
Now you have.
There we go. I missed it. Do you want to share screen? Yes. I want to share. Wait a second. Too large. Okay. You guys can see it, okay?
Yep, looks good.
Okay. I'm going to see if I can summarize this from memory, and you guys can read and check me. So we added, like, there is a PR which adds an error code which says fetch too large, and that PR has all the editor's stamps and has been open long enough so we could merge it. Colin's request was that, like, the problem with it is if we serve that error, the receiver of it has no idea what kind of fetch would work. And asked for there to be some signal that would give the fetcher some clue about that. We were trying to figure out, if we added such a thing, what unit would it be in? Would it be in bytes? Would it be in objects? Or would it be in groups? I think Colin suggested bytes. I don't think bytes works because the fetcher has no idea how many bytes a thing will be. And so it can't issue, if I got a fetch too large, please make a fetch request of less than 100 bytes. I have no idea. So it seems like the answer to me would have to be in objects or groups. And I'll further observe that the minimum number of groups that a server could serve has to be, you have to be able to serve at least one group because of joining fetch. You can't, we have to, so like however long big a group is, you can't ever say like that your fetch, you asked for too much because you have to be able to serve one group. So my proposal was we could say fetch, there could be a setup parameter, fetch max groups. I won't let you fetch for more than one group, 5 groups, 10 groups. And if you send a request for 100, you'll get a fetch too large error. And you'll know from my setup parameter that you should have asked for a smaller range. But I don't think Victor or Ian, or we could not amongst the editors agree that that was a good solution. So this is just stuck in limbo. That's my recollection. Victor and then Colin.
When originally the error code was proposed, I did not think that there is ever a reason to send it, but it's an error code, so whatever. Now that I see this, I think we should not add this error code. This is fetch. Fetches are flow controlled. You can fetch as much as you want and it will work because quick flow control just works. There is no like HTTP doesn't care if you're downloading a megabyte file or a terabyte file. The only thing this would add is this would force the clients to split their fetch into small fetches, which there is no good reason to do whatsoever. And the only reason you would ever send this code is for some reason you had policies that like you are trying to combat clients and that do like mass downloads, and in that case you can just give permission denied or internal error or whatever. So I think we should just not add this error code. And we should definitely not do anything that like attempts you to provide max fetch size, because that is hard to specify, and also like this just leads to like pointless behavior.
Okay. Colin?
I'm trying to reevaluate my opinion from what Victor just said, because I think it changes it somewhat. But what I was going to say before he said that is, Alan, I think I agree that doing this in bytes was a bad idea. You've convinced me it would need to go object groups. I also think there is no way you can possibly say that a relay's got to be willing to deal with a full group in a joining fetch, because that could be infinitely large. There's no way for it to. So we're probably going to need another error over there to do a joining fetch. Sorry, your group's too large. I can't join and fetch you. So but that seems like a sort of separate issue. But I could easily see this being done in number of objects. That said, I do see Victor's point that maybe we don't need this at all. So I've gone back to lost on this. But if we keep this, I think we should move it to objects as the limit, or at least not bytes as I proposed.
Okay, the only difference about objects is, so I hear what you're saying, your group can be infinitely large, but a single object can also be infinitely large. So now I'm sort of with Victor about like, what's the point? The only use case I can think of this is like, if for some reason I wanted, like when I ask for a terabyte of data in HTTP, the server's on the hook for serving the whole thing, even if the server wants to shut down and it's going to take me another hour to download it. And that's not great. And so if I as a server want to say like, you can only ever request X at a time, and that like, therefore, if you split over something, I'm guaranteed to put an upper bound on how long I might have to be serving something.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to solve the problem where the client requests a ridiculous amount, which causes an upstream a request for a ridiculous amount. Then the client just disconnects and goes away. And like we're DDoSing, like we have this whole, we're getting all this data that's like, there's not even a person, this is a classic DDoS attack, right? So that's why I was trying to shield. But I think when I think about that attack, I go back to like, HTTP deals with this fine. This is a well-known attack. Victor's going to tell me we deal with this all the time in the existing stuff, and we don't need this error code to deal with that. And I'm sure he's right. So, yeah, let's see where we go.
Victor? Wait, Victor disappeared. Colin gave you an opportunity to say that you were right and he was wrong. Like, why are we not taking this? Suhas.
I think I'm +1 on not having this. Yeah, the point about having the DOS, even though that's valid, thought, but like I cannot provide more than 100,000 groups because you ask more like the large number, but a single group can be as big as 100,000 small groups. So there's no way we can make decision very clearly on one versus the other. I'm also inclining towards probably let's. For Ian's point, let's close this and move on.
Okay. The signal I have right now is I'm going to close the PR and the issue. Does anybody want to lie down on the road on it? Okay. That sounds like great success. Now we have 75 seconds left. Who's got another issue that we can talk about that fast?
I think we'd rather say thank you very much for leading the discussion, and we will give you back one slightly less than a minute. Suhas, what?
No, I'm just trying to ask, like, when are we planning to get draft 15 out? Just on the
okay, next interim is a week from Monday, which is also the draft deadline, and we will probably cut 15, I don't know, between 30 and 42 minutes before the draft deadline.
Sounds good. Thank you.
There's a bunch of PRs that are open. Everything that was opened by Monday or is eligible to land. So please provide your feedback, reviews.
Yeah. And thanks to us for being motivated on Monday to try to write a bunch of PRs before the timing deadline. A number of those were things we agreed upon at the last in-person interim and had pretty strong agreement. So I think most of them should be pretty non-controversial, but feel free to take a look if you're interested.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Then we end for today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.